sure that we all have a thumbs up on moving forward with that. We're all comfortable with the late edition of the item.
If I may, I'm fine with moving forward, but did we allow public comment? Not that there was anyone.
We did have public comment at the
We had
workshop.
student, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Our technical difficulties are resolved. We're live now. My apologies.
Thank you so much. All right, so I will now turn it back over to Ms. Envall for reading of
Okay.
the resolution.
Whereas the Surgeon General of the United States Public Health Service has issued an advisory on e-cigarette use among youth, which emphasized the importance of protecting our children from a lifetime of nicotine addiction and associated health risks by immediately addressing the epidemic of youth e-cigarette use, and emphasized that the recent surge in e-cigarette use among the youth, which has been fueled by new types of e-cigarettes that have been recently entered into the market, is a cause for great concern, and concluded that we must take action now to protect the health of our nation's young people. And whereas the Surgeon General of the United States Public Health Service has further concluded that e-cigarette use among U.S. middle and high school students increased 900% during 2011 to 2015, and current e-cigarette use increased 78% among high school students during the past year, from 11.7% in 2017 to 20.8% in 2018, and in 2018, more than 3.6 million youth, including 1 in 5 high school students and 1 in 20 middle school students, currently use e-cigarettes, and nicotine exposure during adolescence can impact learning, memory, and attention, and using nicotine in adolescence can also increase risk for future addiction to other drugs, and we must take aggressive steps to protect our children from these highly potent products that risk exposing a new generation of young people to nicotine. And whereas the Surgeon General of the United States Public Health Service has specifically urged that educators have an important role to play in addressing this public health epidemic. And whereas the former Commissioner of the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, Scott Gottlieb, has concluded that teen use of e-cigarettes is now an addiction crisis and an epidemic, and has identified Juul Labs as having primary responsibility for the epidemic, further concluding that the problem has been created largely by their product. And whereas the former Commissioner of the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, David Kessler, has stated that the Juul e-cigarette is facilitating initiation to nicotine use and addiction by teens, and the blueprint for that e-cigarette could easily have been taken straight out of the tobacco industry's playbook. And whereas the Committee on Oversight and Reform of the United States House of Representatives, following review of 55,000 non-public documents of Juul Labs, Inc., found that Juul deployed a sophisticated program to enter schools and convey its messaging directly to teenage children, and Juul also targeted teenagers and children as young as 8 years old in summer camps and out-of-school programs, and Juul recruited thousands of online influencers to market to teens. And whereas a national survey of youth found that nearly 1 in 5 middle and high school students between 12 and 17 years old had seen a Juul e-cigarette used in school, and whereas a national survey of more than 1,500 teachers and administrators of middle schools and high schools across the U.S. found that 88% of high school staff and 77% of middle school staff were somewhat or very concerned about e-cigarette use by students in schools, and whereas it has been widely reported that juuling has become a nightmare for school administrators throughout the United States, and whereas the School Board of Brevard County, Florida has and continues to experience significant problems with the use of student use of Juul e-cigarettes, which use, among other things, 1, has created a substantial and ongoing interruption of and disturbance to its educational mission, 2, has resulted in the diversion of substantial resources in an attempt to abate and prevent such use, and 3, poses a significant risk to the health and well-being of its students. And whereas the School Board of Brevard County, Florida has determined that student use of electronic cigarettes and vaping products continues to adversely affect educational outcomes, and that such use has resulted in student suspensions, truancy, and absenteeism, requiring additional resources from teachers and staff in an attempt to compensate for such issues, and resulting in significant costs to the district. Whereas the School Board of Brevard County, Florida is a leader in education excellence whose faculty and administrators care deeply about the education and well-being of its students, and which is committed to leading and not following. Now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of Brevard County, Florida, that the School Board of Brevard County, Florida authorizes the law firms of Wagstaff, Cartmel, and the Mayer Law Firm and others to initiate litigation and file suit against any appropriate parties to compensate the district for damages suffered by the district and its students as a result of the manufacture, marketing, sale, and use of electronic cigarettes and vaping products, and to seek any other appropriate relief.
Thank you, Ms. Envall. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Any discussion?
Whoever motion, no discussion. I have one question. Ms. Envall said the names of the firms and others, but that's not the words I see in front of me. Did you?
Based on this morning's addition to others, I thought that I added that myself. Because the agreement is actually going to be the Mayor Law Firm, Wagstaff, and others. So would you like to just take out the and the others?
It doesn't affect my vote. I just want to make sure everyone knows what they're voting on, and if it makes a difference, if it says and others or not. I mean, this isn't a contract. This is just a resolution, so I'm guessing it doesn't matter. Just wanted to clarify. Does it matter if it's written in there and
Our
others, or
agreement
if it-
itself actually includes the others.
Okay. All right.
Mrs. Envall,
Mhm.
in the action, it doesn't have "and others." Should that be added?
We can either add it, or I can amend my resolution to remove and others. Would you like me to amend the resolution to include and others?
No.
So we have a motion to approve the resolution. Do we need to have an amended motion to approve? My question, Ms. Envall, is are we approving the recommendation or are we approving the resolution?
You're approving the resolution at this point.
Okay, so we are, would it be easy enough for us to approve the resolution, including the and others as
Yes.
presented to the
Yes.
board?
that's
So
okay.
do we need an amended motion or simply just move forward with the motion that we have?
You can do an amended motion to include and others if you'd like.
Okay, would anyone like to offer an amended motion?
Or it can stay the way it is.
The way that you stated or the way that it is as attached to the agenda?
Whichever you would prefer.
Can we have discussion after the motion?
Yes,
I so moved.
and is there a second?
Sure, second.
Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Mr. Susan to approve an amended resolution, including and others, and I will turn it to you, Ms. Campbell, since it was your motion for discussion.
I am just taking a look at the email that Ms. Envall sent us this morning that says the final version adds the two local law firms as collective counsel. So does the contract list it just as counsel, or does it list the law firms specifically?
It lists each law firm specifically. So
Okay.
we can do and others or list each law firm specifically if you'd like.
I mean, the resolution is a resolution, it's just
It is.
a public proclamation, but the contract specifically would cause problems if we need to engage others. As far as the resolution, I'm good either way, but I just want to make sure we get to the contract, that we're not tying the hands of the people we've asked to represent us, or ourselves.
The contract is specific to those 4 law firms.
Okay.
But it does, Ms. Campbell, leave room if for whatever reason we decided that we didn't want to work with that set of law firms. It does leave room for us to cancel that contract and work with a different law firm. One of the things that Ms. Envall and I discussed this morning was there are some other firms out there working on the case, and if there were a situation where the potential return were to be more favorable for the district with a different set of law firms, we could certainly potentially make that switch, but it sounds as though the 25-75 split is pretty much standard with the firms. So we do have room to get out of that contract should we decide we need to for a whole number of reasons, including that.
Okay, so would that be the only reason why we'd want to leave the and others on there?
I think that would capture the intent of the board moving forward with the resolution.
To leave others on there? Okay. Then I'll let my motion stand.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the amended resolution to include "and others." Do you need a voice vote, Pam, or?
No.
Okay, then please vote if there's no additional discussion.
Are we voting on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
amendment?
Two things. It's appropriate to approve the resolution before you approve the legal contract?
Yes, yes. You're doing the resolution to say that it's an epidemic, and that's what the board's doing, is joining.
And the second thing, is it do they have to vote on the original motion first and then go to the amended?
The amended, then
I believe we had an amended motion.
So, okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
we
Alright.
vote that, then
An
we go
amended.
back to the
Mhm.
original.
All right, I'm good.
So do we need a vote?
Is
Voice
this
vote on the
No.
amendment?
time
there.
to discuss our vote now, or should we discuss after the amended?
I think we're just voting on the resolution right now, we're not
Resolution.
voting on the contract.
We are amending right now the resolution. We vote on that, then we come back to discussion right before we vote for the resolution as amended, if it's amended.
Right.
Got it.
Any additional questions on process? Okay, then if any additional discussion on the amended motion? Okay, then if the board would please vote on the amended motion.
Wait a minute.
It says adopting
Yeah,
the
this is-
resolution.
We need to voice.
Yeah, this is, all right, Pam, can we do a voice vote on the amended motion?
Yeah.
Will that make your life easier?
Wait,
On the actual amendment itself?
The amendment to the resolution, we need a voice vote.
Yes, you're actually amending the resolution at this point.
okay,
You want a voice vote on that one?
that's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries 4-1. So we now have an amended resolution. We will take a motion to approve the amended resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell, and open for discussion.
Can I go first?
No, I'm not even talking on this. Good.
I just wanted to share, after we had our meeting with our workshop last week, we got into discussion with some of the students afterwards, and I believe one of them, Ms. Descovich, shared an email that was sent so that we could hear that student's input. And one of the concerns was, are we, in getting involved in the lawsuit, are we getting away from our mission? And I think that is exactly the point, is that the Juul, the vaping and the epidemic that we're involved in takes us away from our mission. It is taking our staff away from the mission. And so I just feel like this is so important, as much as, we all want to stay out of legal hairiness, for lack of a better word. We're already in it. We're here, and it's causing a huge problem. Not to mention just the fact that a part of our job is protecting students, and so I feel like if we're going to protect them in other ways, that it's appropriate for us to do it in this way. And so that's why I'm continuing to support our decision to move forward with this.
Additional discussion?
I'd like to say a few words.
Ms. McDougall?
After our meeting, I certainly had students come up and question why we might get involved, and it was interesting conversation because she shared with me she has a friend who vapes at her school for anxiety, and she has talked to her friend about stopping and how dangerous it is. And that hasn't stopped this friend. So I am concerned that it is an epidemic. And so that was one person I talked to. And then I talked to a mother who is in the medical profession, who has seen this firsthand, and also in her family. And I talked to her at length about this. What do you think about us joining this? And she says, Juul purposely targeted our youth, purposely. Somebody needs to hold them accountable. Even if we get nothing compensated from this, it needs to be somebody to hold them accountable for what's happening in the epidemic to our children going forward. And unfortunately, our other lawmakers are not, at this point, willing to do that. let's hope nothing happens to their children, but she has seen firsthand some of the devastation to people who are vaping and how prevalent it is. So I want to move forward with this.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Additional discussion? Ms. Descovich?
I've said most of this at our workshop, but I just want to reiterate why I'm voting against this today. And it's not because I don't think we don't have a problem. Obviously, our numbers show that nicotine use is up, and we know, firsthand that vaping is up. And I have friends and family members that have been affected by their students vaping, so I understand the problem, but I can't get past our role and where we belong in this and what we should be doing. And so for me, I think it's out of our scope. I think that there's more than just Juul that are. I have a problem with going after just one vendor when there's, I guess they're not our vendor, one company, when there's multiples that are probably doing the exact same thing, but the research hasn't been put in front of us. And so therefore, I'm going to stick with my nay vote.
Thank you, Ms. Descovich. Any additional discussion? All right, then I will call for the vote.
What are you doing here, Campbell? What is this?
No, it's already taken care of.
Bam, bam,
Is there anyone who hasn't voted? Because I'm not getting a.
I did vote, but it didn't like it. So
Come on.
I did it again.
Come on, McDougall.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, wait, mine didn't, it looked like
You're
mine
the
didn't go
culprit?
through either.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I
It's
want to
just
call
not
for a
me.
voice vote.
System has
I
a
think-
problem
I did it
with how
again.
you're
I think we got
Oh,
it.
okay. Motion carries 4-1.
It was me.
It's cold out.
And I will just say that's one of the reasons that I'm so very proud of this board is that you all are very principled in your votes, and that regardless of where we fall on a vote and any disagreement, with the other board members, we all have committed to forge ahead and do the good work. So thank you, Ms. Descovich, for sticking to your principles on that. I appreciate that, as well as to the rest of you that carried forward your principles as well. Dr. Mullins, will you please walk us through the action items?
Yes, Ms. Belford, item G7 is to approve the appointment of Paul Gibbs to the position of General Counsel to the School Board of Brevard Public Schools, effective January 6, 2020, pursuant to the terms of the attached employment agreement.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell.
Board members, before you go forward, the job description is not attached as, the job description on the document you have is not attached, so that will have to be attached, but it's your job description that you already approved. It was just not attached to the attachment you have now.
Got it. Is there any discussion on the item?
We haven't discussed much about the contract, so I'm just kind of going through it here for a second time. The salary, was that negotiated by
It's
Ms.?
there.
The salary was negotiated by Dr. Thedy. She worked diligently throughout the weekend. She and I spoke several times. We gave her the initial range that we had discussed at our meeting last week, and she ran with that and worked through. There were several questions that came up, but she worked diligently with Mr. Gibbs to resolve those issues and bring it forward.
So he's starting out just slightly higher than Ms. Envall's current salary. Is there a reason for that? Years of experience, or is there a way for us to, if you would, Dr. Thedy, thank you.
Yeah, why is he starting higher than you?
We worked through a process this weekend of years of experience times a % increase at 1.5%, assuming that every year over the minimum would be the person coming in with 7 years' experience, which is the minimum required for the position. It actually came out to a little bit of a different number, but we stuck with the 155.
Mr. Susan.
I would also like to remind the board that this individual is coming on with more responsibility than Ms. Envall did, carrying on a new staff. It's more responsibility possibly with our public records requests and other things that we're thinking, so there's a little bit more responsibility, and I think that also justifies it for me.
Any additional question, discussion, concern? Ms. Campbell?
After our 5-hour ordeal on Thursday, I think it's important to share with the public who was certainly welcome to attend, but was not there with us, that this was a really difficult decision. Thank you, Ms. Envall, for doing some beating the bushes, and I'm thankful to the 3 candidates who came and spent their morning with us. I know it's a long morning for them, doing individual interviews with all the board members. This was, I don't know if I can say it was the most difficult decision that we've made, but I think it took the longest amount of time. But I'm glad to move forward with someone who has had this role before, and but can't replace you, Ms. Envall.
I have a couple more.
Ms. Descovich?
Okay, hang on. And Dr. Thedy, thank you, because we didn't give you very much time to get this work done. And from the beginning to the end, not just this last weekend, but getting the applications processed and sitting in with us on the marathon meetings and calling references. And thank you, Ms. Escobar, as well, for your role in helping get us organized so quickly.
I don't know if this goes to Ms. Envall or Dr. Thedy, but the new section, so the general counsel is responsible for the recommendation. This is section 5A. That's a brand new section, I'm
That
assuming?
actually was in mine as well.
It was in
It
yours,
was?
so we already established
Yes.
that the general counsel would, okay.
We just didn't quite get that far. We were close, though.
Very close. Okay. And the language on the parliamentarian certification coverage, is that new?
That was there, too.
Interesting, because he specifically said he wanted to go get that certification, so, okay. I just want to second what Ms. Campbell said about our deliberation on our 3 top candidates. They were all remarkable, and, I just want public record to show that we would have been well-served with any one of the 3. It was very challenging, 5 hours of us, and we weren't fighting. We were weighing the pros and cons and the experience that each one had and what Brevard's needs were. And I think we did a good job coming to the final conclusion. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? I will just add, absolutely, it was this was an absolute team effort from start to finish with crunch time from the get-go for staff, for the board, for certainly for our candidates who were very flexible with their schedule. And Ms. Descovich couldn't have said it better. We would have been very well served by any of those 3 candidates. And we are blessed. Thank you, Ms. Envall, for going out and recruiting to bring us such great candidates, and to all of the staff who made it possible for us to get through this in a speedy manner and get someone in here to try to take the place of Ms. Envall as she leaves us. So with that, I will call for a vote.
Come on.
Your computer's too cold. Frozen up.
And the motion passes 5-0. Congratulations to Mr. Gibbs, and we look forward to welcoming you to the board, or to the district, I should say.
Do we have a start date? Does anyone?
January 6th.
Okay.
Yes, and Dr. Thedy did a great job negotiating that as well.
Now she needs to become a real estate agent.
Right? Okay, Dr. Mullins, I think we are back to you.
Item G8 is for the board to approve the legal services agreement regarding electronic cigarettes vaping litigation.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Any discussion? All right, please vote. And the motion passes 4-1. There being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned.